Hi parents, my name is Miss Stapp and I am your student's guide to personal project and design for 10th grade. If you're new to personal project, it is really the capstone of their MYP experience in which students are expected to create a project based on their own interest, and then they develop the framework, the planning, the goal setting, and finish the product all by themselves. Now, don't worry, we do work on this and talk about this extensively in school. However, they are expected to commit time outside of school as well for personal project. And that's where kids sometimes feel overwhelmed when they are in charge of creating the framework. However, this is why personal project is so important. And later I'll talk to you about how they can leverage that use that for DP as well as college admissions, because this is a thing that it is unique to our program here. It is the personal project. I'd like to first show you a couple of resources that I have created that your student has full access to on ManageBack and in Notebook. So if you mention that you would like to see that, they are in either of those places. You can also email me, and I will give you my email at the end of this presentation. You can email me and I will share these with you. This is a action plan that I've created that has dates. Now your student, like I said, is creating their own set of dates and goals and when things will happen as they go along. And this project goes from August 1st, or the 1st of August when school starts, all the way to after winter break. And they're expected to be done with their product by that time. So that's about 5 months that they're working on this. But in order to ensure that they're actually making progress as we go along, I have a few little check-ins and dates, and that's what you're seeing. Some of these dates have passed, of course. One coming up is the deadline for their first meeting with their supervisor. And your student may have already had this, and we'll talk about supervisors more later, but they do have support outside of me and outside of my design class in order to help them accomplish these goals. I'm scrolling down a little bit because I did want to share with you that we fully expect there to be an exhibition this year, a live exhibition on Wednesday, February 8th, during the day and during the evening so that you can attend, and that will be open to everybody. And that is the most exciting part, I think, of personal project is when they're done and they get to show off all they have accomplished. The other resource I have for you is a personal project handbook that IB made that gives you more of an idea of what personal project is. It's about a 25-page document, but it talks about the role of the supervisor as well as expectations for the student. And as you move through, you will read everything. The rubric is there, and your student can share that with you. All right. So I'm going to start up my slideshow. This was the slideshow I shared with parents, and I've created a condensed version for you because that meeting was about 60 minutes long, and I wanted to make a video that had the highlights for you so you didn't have to watch the full hour. Let's see. So the nature of personal product is that it is independent. And again, we have a framework in place with check-ins that I'm checking progress and I'm giving students ideas about how they can conduct this framework, but they're really taking all they learned from across the subjects and in design in order to create this plan. So they also do the process of inquiry, which is investigation. They do the action portion of the program, which is actual work on the product, and then they reflect. You're going to hear me say ATL skills a lot, and ATL is approaches to learning, and those are skills like research, organization, self-management, collaboration, that your students are focusing in on in order to help them successfully meet this project. Okay, so the role of your student is to complete a personal project, is to undertake independent inquiry and learning, and to spend about, IB recommends 25 hours outside of school is what it would take to do a good standard project. Now, some of your students had already met that from what they've told me. So those projects are going to be great this year. The role of your supervisor. I've had parents ask about the supervisor, and though your supervisor may be relatively new to our school, all of our supervisors have been through a training and they have received all of the resources that I've shared with you and more. And they also have a script that they're using for each of their meetings where they meet with a student. They are ensuring that everything on the rubric is met, and they have ways to help your student if things have not been met. Your supervisor also selected your student based on your student's topic. So they either have an interest in that topic or they may have a background in that topic in which they can help support your student. Beyond that, all of our teachers write. And a large part of this is actually turning the project and to the report. And the way your supervisors help that is they are asking the students to articulate, to think about their thinking and their decision making and their planning and actually put that into words. That is maybe the most important part that your supervisor plays. And again, all supervisors have a guide to help ensure that this happens. They also read a draft of your student report. They ensure that the work the student does is authentic. It's actually their work. There's actually a product, and they're showing their own progress of the product. And they sign this thing we call the academic honesty form. Each time your student meets with a supervisor, they are expected to take take notes on the meeting and write those on the academic honesty form. So all the feedback that your supervisor gives goes onto the academic honesty form, and then students use that to improve their project, to improve their product, and to improve their report. The role that you have is to show your authentic interest in what your student is doing, because if you're interested in it, they're even more interested in it, and that helps a lot. So do ask your student how it's going and what they've done, and ask them to show you, because that makes them really excited. And we want them excited about this project instead of overwhelmed. Personal project is 3 criterion. As you can see, there's planning, there's applying those ATL skills in order to actually meet the product ends, and there is a reflection piece in which you'll talk about how they grew as learners. So your student will inquire, they will act, and they will reflect. Your student creates their own set of goals and objectives, and this is one of the hardest things I believe for students to do, but they have done this many times in design, and I can help them if they're worried or concerned about how to do this. In design, we call these objectives criteria, and we do in personal project as well, and those are things that need to happen in order for the project to be successful. They develop a plan, and the plan includes the timeline, the goals or steps. It includes how we're going to meet those criteria, and everything that has to happen before the actual action. Your student is expected to document all of the evidence. So they may be taking images, they may be video recording, they may be writing notes, they may be making diagrams, they may be writing down the stories of the events as they happen. And then finally, they get to reflect and think about how they develop those ATL skills and how they have changed and grown in any manner and how they can use this growth moving forward. Your student will create a written or an oral report. Most of our students do the written report because the oral is just as long. It's pretty much like reading your written report. It's about 15 minutes long. And they turn that in at the end. So that will be submitted in February. So they're expected to wrap up in January 1st, their project, and they have little pieces that they've written as they went along or drafted, and we will put that together on our Wednesdays during design, and it will be submitted mid-February. Here are the actual dates since I didn't have them in front of me. So their first meeting with the supervisor is due by September 30th. The second is the 28th, and they have one November 18th. On January 5th, their first report draft is due. So after they come back from winter break, that report draft is due. Again, they will have a little bit of time while they be writing it in class, but a bulk of the writing will be done in those 25 hours outside of class. February 8th will be our exhibition, and their final report is due on February 17th. They will have two opportunities to create rough drafts. One comes in after winter break to me to grade, and then the next one goes to their supervisor, in which they will get feedback. All right, again, my name is Abby Stapp. I'm at iiant.org. Kendra Cooper is my co-pilot in this personal project journey, and she's at kendra.cooper@iiant.org. You can send me any further questions that you have. One of the biggest questions that we get is about what kind of projects have happened. I don't remember if I went over this in the beginning, but if your student has an interest, there is a project we can develop around that. And some of the past projects have been things like models of the brain that light up. An electric dog feeder has happened, a picnic table to learn carpentry skills, fundraising events like Zumba, and an evening at Guitar Sanctuary. Black room photography and creating all the chemicals yourself in that film. Original songs have been recorded and uploaded, published on Spotify. One of my personal favorites was custom skateboards because I do love art, and there's been a lot of gallery shows and so forth. There are also research papers that is perfectly acceptable. However, after your student writes this research paper, they do have to write a report. Do have to write a report about the research paper. So that is a popular question. Another question that you all have was, and I think I answered that about supervisors. Supervisors are trained, and supervisors have the rubric and have a script in which they help each of the students meet the goals and the highest score they can based on that rubric. Let's see, another popular question that you all have again was how many hours outside? The minimum number of hours recommended by IB is 25. However, your student may have already exceeded that, and hopefully it's because they have a strong personal interest. And that is a lot of what they write about in this report is their past experiences that make this an interest to them, and why they think this is a great project. Students do not have to finish the project, if you will, in order to write a great report and do really well on this. Sometimes students bite off more than they can chew. And if they say they want to do a webinar and 1,000 people will show up, if they aren't able to meet that, they can write about their journey and all they learned and get a very high score. So it is not necessarily the rigor of the project, but that the students are able to grow and develop and learn how they can become better learners. If you have any more questions that I have not answered, please do go ahead and send me an email at abby.stapp@iiant.org, and I will get back to you very soon. Thanks, parents.